Hello there. Well, are you a bit lost or struggling to wrap your head around the use of some formulas and functions in Microsoft Excel? Then this video is here to help you out. And by the end of today's tutorials, you will be a pro in the use of these functions and formulas in your journey in Microsoft Excel. I have included timestamps in the description section, so kindly feel free to jump to any function or formula you would like to know in particular. And also, I've included the tutorial material in the description section, so you can always feel free to download it to follow along in today's tutorials. Always be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and share to always support this channel. Let's delve right into it, shall we? And so here I am in my Excel workbook, and this is the data we'll be using for today's tutorials. And so to begin a basic formula in Excel, you always start with the equal sign. And as you can see, these are the keyboard symbols for addition, the subtraction, the division, and the multiplication. So let's do some basic additions. So we'll simply bring in the equal sign, and let's say we want to add 80. So we'll simply bring in the plus sign and add it to the other number we want. Let's say we want to add it to the next 80, and we'll simply hit the enter key. And as you can see, the addition has been done. So in the case you want to do subtraction also, simply bring in the equal sign. And let's say we want to subtract 80 from, let's say, 75. We'll simply do that and select it, and as you can see, it has been subtracted. And if you want to do some division also, you simply select or bring in the equal sign. And let's say you want to divide 80, then we'll bring in the division sign by 50. Simply select the 50 and press the enter, and as you can see, this has also been done. And the last one, some basic multiplication, we'll simply bring in the equal sign and select this, and now bring in the multiplication sign. Then let's say we want to multiply by 65, we'll simply select it, and as you can see, this will be done. Of course, this is how you can simply do some basic formulas in Microsoft Excel. And congratulations, you finally been able to do that. And so moving on, Excel already have what we call the functions, and these are predefined formulas. What do I mean by that? So in the case that you want to do this addition, or you want to add all this up, indeed, using the equal sign and selecting this one by one can be a bit tedious. So Excel have what we call the sum function. So to do that, let's simply bring in the equal sign, then we'll type in the sum function. So we'll simply type in the sum, and as you can see, it has appeared over here. You can see a list of other functions also. So to select it, you can either use the tab key, or you can simply double click on it to select the function of your choice. So the sum function, and what do we want to add? As you can see, it is asking for the numbers we want to sum up. So we want to add all these together. So we'll simply select the entire data or the entire numbers and simply hit the enter key. And as you can see, the addition or the sum will be done for you. And let's say you want to also do the average of all these numbers also. You simply come over here, then you simply bring in the equal sign and type in the average function also. You simply, and as you can see, other list of what functions will appear. Then you simply select the function you want to use. You want to use the average function, we'll simply hit the tab key, and as you can see, it is also asking for the numbers we want to find the average for. Simply select the entire numbers and hit the enter key. So you do same for the minimum also. Simply type in the minimum function, and as you can see, it appears over here. You hit the tab key, then let's say you want to find the minimum for all these numbers. Let's see, 50 is the minimum, and if you have to carefully go through, as you can see, indeed is 50. So let's say let's say a number is changed over here. So let's say 80 is changed to 40, and hit the enter key. As you can see now, the minimum has picked up that a new minimum number has appeared, so it has picked up that for you. Then let's also bring in the maximum function. We want to find the maximum, so simply bring in the max, simply double click on it, and let's find the maximum of all these numbers also. Let's select them, let's hit the enter key, and as you can see, it has given us the maximum number. And also we want to count the numbers that we are dealing with. We want to count the data we are dealing with. So in the case, let's simply bring in the count function also, count, and hit the tab key, and we'll simply select the entire data, and we'll simply press enter. And as you can see, we have a count of 11. So all these numbers are 11. So in the case that you want to know the very purpose of this count function. If you are dealing with a whole lot of data sets and you want to find out if probably your names are matching up to your numbers, this count function becomes very, very essential. So always note that also. And in Excel, we have what we call the auto sum. This is a shortcut for what the sum function. So rather than using the equal to and bringing in the sum function, you can always use the shortcut there, alt equal to, then you see, and as you can see, it will pick up what the data you want to add and always bring it to the very end, or use it at the very end of the entire data you want to add up. So you can always use it vertically or horizontally. So always know that in the case your data goes this way and you want to add them all up, you can always use the alt equal to. So it has picked up that we want to add all these numbers and it has included this blank space over here. No worries, it's always 0. So we simply what, press the enter key, and as you can see, it has done the math for us. So in the case that this is to revert back to 80, or press enter, as you can see, it is what, 840. Now our minimum has also changed. But what if you want to quickly do all these things without having to bring up all these functions inside your Excel sheet? So all what you need to do is to simply select your entire data set and move to your status bar, and as you can see, the average is displayed over here, the count also, the minimum, the maximum, and the sum also. In the case that you moved there and you couldn't find all these things, no worries, there is no need to panic. Okay, just simply right click on your status bar, and as you can see, this pop-up menu will appear, where over here you can find your average, your count, your minimum, your maximum, your sum. So if you are not finding it, just simply check it, and if you don't want it, you can simply uncheck them. I want them to be displayed, so I'll simply check it, and now simply click anywhere over here and it will be displayed over here on your status bar. So this is how you can do some basic functions and formulas in Excel. So moving on, let's move on to the if, the sum if, and the average if functions. So what the if function does is trying to tell us a story. So let's say this is our data over here. So we have this data over here. We are using the previous data, just an updated one. So let's say we want to use the if function to see the quantities which are less than what, 50. So over here, let's simply come to the formula bar. I want us to use a trick. So we'll simply bring in the equal to and bring in the if function. So and simply what, press the tab key. So why am I using the formula bar? I want us to use the insert function because in the case you are not sure as to whether your arguments or your inputs will not provide the desired results, always using the insert function will help guide you as to how to go about what, inputting your arguments. So as you can see, the if function is asking for the logical test, the value if true and the value if false. So let's simply hit this insert function symbol over here. We'll simply click on it, and as you can see, this dialog box will appear over here. So now, as you can see, what checks whether a condition is met, right, and returns one value if true and another what, if false. So now the logical test is asking, is any value or expression that can be what, evaluated to be what, true or what, false. So now our logical test is what, if this very cell, right, is greater than or equal to what, 50, right? This is the logical test we want. If it is greater than or equal to 50, then what we want to return is what, true. So anytime you are also typing a test in Excel, you always begin in a what, in a quote. And if this condition is not met, what do we want to return? So we want to tell the store owner to add more because it is less than what, 50, because it is less than what, 50. So if you want to see if the arguments you've inputted is generating a desired result, always come down over here where, as you can see, the formula results, it has given you what, a final answer. In the case that nothing appears over here, it means there is something wrong with the arguments you have what, inputted. So let's simply click on OK and see. So as you can see, it is saying we should add more because the condition over here was if this very cell is greater than or equal to 50, then it is true. But over here it is less than, so we are telling the store owner that it is less than, so let us add more what, more quantities to it. So what if this is to change to, let's say, 51? Press enter. As you can see, it appears as what, true. So this is not only how you can use the if function also. You can also use the if function to do some basic calculations also. So let's bring in the if function again. So if hit the tab key. So now let's bring the insert function. So now we want also to bring in a logical test. What is the logical test we want to bring in? So we want to bring in that if this very cell over here also is now greater than or equal to 40, right? If it is greater than or equal to 40, then what we want to do is we want to multiply this cell by, so we want to multiply it by this 5% over here. And if it is not true, let us simply what, ignore it. So simply bring in the double quote, and as you can see, it has given us what, a desired result. So the formula result is what, 2.55. So let's simply hit OK and see. So as you can see, it has given us what, a result. So what was the condition? The condition was if this very cell is greater than or equal to 40, then we want to multiply it by what, the 5%. So what if it is 35? Press enter. As you can see, there is nothing over here because it doesn't meet what, the condition we are talking about. So this is how you can use the if function, and you can use it for endless things you want to do in Excel. So the if function is very important and is very powerful. So always note that. So let's move on. So over here also we want to average. So we want to average if a condition is what, is met. So over here also we'll come to the formula bar also and bring in the equal sign, and now we want to type in the average. As you can see, as you type, other list of what functions appear. What we want is the average if, so we'll simply double click on it, and as you can see, it has appeared. So now what is the range we are talking about? So the range we want is this. So we want to select this range, right? We want to select this range. And now what is the criteria? The criteria we want is if it is what, milk. So if it is milk, so this is the criteria we want. And now let's bring in the comma sign, and now the average range we want. So we want to average this whole thing over here, right? So let's simply close the parenthesis and hit the what, the tab key, the enter key, sorry. So now it is averaging if what, it picks up that what, there it is what, milk only. So now what we are averaging is milk only. In the case that this is to change to, let's say, Milo, let's change it to Milo and press the what, the enter key. As you can see, it has averaged only if it is what, Milo. So what if we change it to, let's say, let's average if it is what, sugar. So let's change this to what, sugar, and press what. As you can see, since sugar is only one, then 100 over 1 is what, 100. So this is how you can also use the what, average if. So you are averaging if a what, a condition is being met. So it's the same with the sum if also. So let's bring in the sum if also. So equal to the sum if. So with the sum if, let's, as you can see, we have the sum if and the sum ifs. So we want the sum if, we press the tab key, and now it is asking for what, the range also. So this is the range we want. So this is the range we are talking about. Then we'll bring in the comma sign. It is asking for what, the criteria. So with the criteria, let's bring in the quotes, and we want what, the milk again. Let's bring in the milk again, and now let's bring in, and now it is asking for the what, for the sum range. So for the sum range, let's simply select this what we want to add in case this what criteria, or this criteria is what, is met. Let's close the parenthesis and simply press the what, enter key. So now it is adding only if this what, only if it picks up that what, there is milk what, in this very list, or in this very criteria we are talking about. So in the case you have a whole list of data and you want to add just a particular section of your data without having to add all these average if, the sum if, and the if function can help you generate the results you want. So always note that. And now moving on, let's move on to the upper, the lower, and the proper function. So over here in Excel, unlike Microsoft Word, so let's move to Microsoft Word. Unlike Microsoft Word, where over here you can simply select your text, then if you want to change it to uppercase or lowercase, you can simply use this very icon over here to change it. You simply click on it, double click, and you can change it to the lowercase, the uppercase. Then even you can capitalize what each word. In Excel, you don't have it that way. So in Excel, a formula or a function has been given where you can always use it for that. So over here, as you can see, it is already in what? In uppercase. So, but what if you don't want it in uppercase, but you want it in what? The upper and the lower? You use the what? The proper function. So all you need to do is to simply bring in the equal sign, then type in the proper. And as you can see, this the proper function or to convert a text string to what? A proper case. As you can see there. So as you can see, what the function does is being displayed over here. So let's simply hit the tab key, and now it is asking for the very text we want to convert to a proper case. So simply select it and hit the what? Enter key. And as you can see, it has what? Capitalized only the first what? The first text, and now the remaining text is what? In lowercase. In the case that you want to do it for all this, all you need to do is to simply come over here, and as you can see, this white cross over here changes to this black cross, and you simply drag it, and as you can see, we've all been done. And you can also do same for the lower. Also, you bring in the function the lower, you hit the tab key, and now the lower will appear. You simply select the text, then hit the what? The enter, and as you can see, all your items or all your data has been turned to a lowercase. You can simply what? Change it to this. As you can see, the item, the brands, the quantities. So but there is an issue over here. In the case that you are done with this and you want to only maintain this, and if you are to get rid of this, so let's say we get rid of this, so control minus, let's get rid of it. So okay, as you can see, this what disappears, or there is an error over here. Let's bring it back, control Z. So in the case you want to maintain it, where in the after you even get rid of this still remains, all you need to do is to select your entire text, right click on it, then copy, then simply right click on it and just paste it as what? Paste it as values. Okay, so in the case that this disappears, so let's get rid of this again. As you can see, this still remains. So let's use the control Z, and now let's bring in the up. Let's use the upper over here also. So upper, press the tab key, let's select this and press enter, and as you can see, it has all turned to what? An uppercase for you. So this is how you can also use the upper, the proper, the lower case to always change your very wordings, whether you want it in uppercase or whether it is in uppercase, you want it in lowercase or proper case. This helps you not to be typing them one by one, so that at least your work is always what? Effective and efficient without wasting too much time on just a particular portion of your data. It helps in data analysis and others also. And so moving on, the next function we'll be talking about will be the Textjoin function. And obviously, if you have a very few data sets, always inputting them manually is the way to go. But if you are dealing with a whole lot of data sets, doing it manually won't really help, as it will make your work a bit stressful and slow you down. So using the Textjoin will always help. And what this does is it brings what? Two data sets or two tests what? Together. So let's simply come to the formula bar, bring in the what? The Textjoin function. So simply type in test, and as you can see, a list of functions will be made available. What we want is the Textjoin. So we'll simply select it or double click on it. And as you can see, it has appeared over here. Let's go to the insert function to use it. So over here, it is asking us for what? For the delimiter. So how do we want our tests to be separated in the case what we bring them together? So what we want is what? The double quote. What we simply mean is what? A space. Then we'll simply ignore the empty, and it is asking us for the test. So this is the first test we want, and the second test we want is obviously this one. So as you can see, our final result has been displayed over here. So we'll simply hit the OK to see, and as you can see, our final data has been displayed over here, and Akwesi Bonzo has now been joined together. Let's simply drag it down to C, and obviously is the same over here. So if you are working with a whole lot of data sets, using the Textjoin will help you, or is the way to go. And moving on, we will talk about what the Textsplit function. And what the Textsplit does is, while the Textjoin brings test together, the test join what split them together, obviously as the name suggests. But what God has put together, let no man put what asunder. So we'll simply bring in the test split function. We use the equal sign. Then let's go through this where the test split is. We'll simply double click on it. Then let's use the insert function again. So over here also it is asking us for what? For the test. So but first what we want is, let's simply copy this data. Let's copy it and let's paste it as what? Values. Let's simply paste it over here. So selecting this cell, let's move to the formula bar and bring in our test split function. So let's go through the test split. We'll simply double click on it. Let's double click on it. Then let's use the insert function again. Then it is asking us for the test. So what test do we want it to be separated? So this obviously what we want, these two names, and it is asking us for the column delimiter. How do you want it separated? So we want it to be spaced, so we'll separate it. So as you can see, our final results has been displayed over here. Obviously we can simply ignore this one. Let's hit the OK, and as you can see, our data has been what? Separated. So if you are to drag it down, as you can see, it affects what? This our data also. So this is how you can use either the test join or test split to always bring your data together or separate them from one another or from each other. The very next functions we'll be talking about will be the lookup function. So we have the Vlookup, the Hlookup, and the what? The Xlookup. So the Vlookup is the vertical, the Hlookup, the horizontal, and the Xlookup, I think, is the combination of, or it's an advanced of what. So what the Vlookup does is it looks for data what in a vertical form. So what am I talking about? So let's simply use an example. So let's bring in the equal sign and bring in the Vlookup. So as you can see, let's see the definition. It looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then returns a value in the same row from a column what you specified. So I've specified in this column. But first, let's specify the very data we want to find. So let's bring in, let's say Dano. We want to find, or we want to look for the quantity of what? Of Dano. So now let's select this very cell and now reintroduce our Vlookup what function again. So we have a fair idea of what the Vlookup function does. So we'll simply select it. So we use the tab key to select it. Then now let's look for what, or let's bring in the insert function, and now it is asking us for what? The lookup value. So what test or what data do I want to look out for? So is what? So as you can see, the lookup values definition is over here. It is the value to be found in the test column of the what? Of the table, in the first column of what? Of the table. So now my lookup value is this, so I will simply select it. Obviously you can always type it with what? The quote. Then it is asking us for the table array. So within which table is this very what? Data, or the data we want to bring out found. So this is the table array we are talking about, right? So we'll simply select the entire table array. Sorry, I didn't do that. So let's first select it, then I'll select the table array. So this is the table array we want. So we'll simply select the table array. Then now it is asking us for what? The column index number. So the column index number is what? It is, if it is to search for this data within this table, what column do we want to return? So we want to return quantity. So if you have to count 1, 2, as you can see, it is in the what? The second column. So we'll simply type in what? 2. And as you can see, your final result has already been displayed over here. And now it is asking for the range lookup. Over here, it is a logical test, 0 for false, which is an exact match, and 1 for true, which is what? An approximate what match. What we want is an exact match, right? So we'll simply what? Hit 0 for the exact match. Then we'll simply, as you can see, it is over here, true, ascending order. So it's sorted in ascending order is equal to true, or omitted, find an what? An exact match. So what we want is what? An exact match, which is false. So we'll simply hit what? Okay. And as you can see, our data will be displayed over here. So in the case that this is to change to 80, we'll hit enter. As you can see, it will change over here. And what if our lookup value is to change to peak, and we hit OK? As you can see, it is still 80. So let's change this to Milo. So let's change it to Milo to confirm whether what our very function is working. Hit the enter key. As you can see, indeed this Vlookup what is working for us. In the Hlookup, what the Hlookup does is in the case that this very data was in a horizontal form. So let's change this to a horizontal form and see. So let's use the transpose function to do that. Okay, so now we have transposed all these all these data. Now we have our items in the in a horizontal form, the brands and the quantity. So with the Hlookup, so let's say we want to look up for this let's say Bonvita, right? So let's select the Bonvita. Let's select the Bonvita. And now what we want to do is to look up for its very quantity. So over here we'll use the Hlookup. So let's simply use the Hlookup. So equal to, we'll bring in the Hlookup. Let's select it, bring in the insert function. And over here what we want is the lookup value. So our lookup value is obviously the Bonvita, and the table array. So let's simply, so the table array, so it is simply just like the Xlookup, but a thinned format. So it is now asking us for for the row index, unlike the Xlookup where we use the column index. Over here it is asking us for for the row index, and the row index is so the 1 and 2. So the row index is also 2 over here. And now for the logical also 0, of course, because we want an exact match. As you can see, the final result has been displayed over here. So as you can see, Bonvita is actually 65. If you have to hit OK, then it gives us the final result or the final quantity for the Bonvita. So in the case that your data is turned upside down and you want to find or you want to locate a very specific data, you can always use the Hlookup, or if it is in the form you want, you can always depend on the Vlookup. And what the Xlookup does is it's more of an upgraded version of both the Hlookup and the Vlookup. So over here, as you can see, this displays only a very specific data you want. But what the Xlookup does is it displays a whole bunch of data related to the very test you are looking for. So let's use the Xlookup. So in the case that, let's say, the unit sold was displayed over here. So let's say the unit sold was displayed over here. So let's add just some figures over here. So let's add some ab abstract figures over here also. So let's do that. And okay, so let's 80, and the last one will be 70, and let's say this will be, let's say 67. Let's change this to 65 and also this to 67. Okay, so now let's add what we call the stock left. Okay, so so that we can get a fair idea of how good the Xlookup does, or the Xlookup is. So the stock left is obviously this quantity minus this quantity. We'll hit the enter, and now let's simply drag it down. So now we'll bring in our Xlookup. So we'll simply type in the Xlookup. So we'll simply type in it, and as you can see, other functions with the S appears. They will simply select our Xlookup. We'll double click on it. We'll use the insert function. So over here, it is asking us for the lookup value, and obviously, and I believe by now we know what a lookup value is. So what we want to find is the needle essential, and now it is asking us for the lookup array. So within what data is this very value that we are looking for found? So it is found within this data set, right? So under the brands, it is found within all these data. So unlike, as you can see over here, it is asking for the return array. Unlike the Vlookup and Hlookup, that was just asking for either a column index or a row index. This is asking us for a return array. So in the case that all this is found within this context, what we want to return is this entire data set, not just a single data. So if it is not found over here, also it gives us an option that if it is not found, what do we want to return? Over here we can simply use or bring in any text. So let's just bring in a double quote. So, and I'll show you what this does. So as you can see, okay, let's type in the not found. Let's, in the case that it is not there, let's type in the not found, and the match where we can simply ignore it. So with this, as you can see, the return array there, okay, So we'll simply hit OK, and as you can see, our data what appears over here. So this how good the Xlookup is. So rather than a single data, it gives us what the entire data we are looking for. So let's say this was, or this is what deleted, as you can see, not found. But what if we are to reference any of this, right? Simply, as you can see, it's very what data appears over here. So this is how good what the S lookup is. So this is how you can also use the VLOOKUP, the HLOOKUP, and what the S lookup. So now let's talk about what we call the trim function. So I included a trim function over here is at times also in the case that you are to type in a data or you are to split or join a data and a delimiter is ignored, at times it really affects. So what the trim does is it clears your data so that in the case you are coming to look out for it, it will always be simpler. So let me give you an example. So let's say we typed in Dano, we brought a space and we typed in the Dano, right? So let me get rid of it. So let me type in the Dano again. So let's type in Dano, right? So as you can see, I have typed in the Dano, right? So now let's look up for its value over here. So let's use the Xlookup to do that. So let's use the Xlookup. Let's bring in the Xlookup function. Let's use the insert. So now we are coming to look out for this what value over here. And where is it found? This is this lookup array. Sorry, this is its lookup array rather. Then now we are looking for what the return array. This is the entire return array. And if it is not found, if not found, let's simply type in OK. Let's simply type in OK. Then now let's simply what hit OK. As you can see, it is not found. But what we have Dano within this what data set, right? So why is Dano not found over here? This is because unlike here where there is no space, over here there is space. So to correct that, let's simply introduce what the trim function. So simply introduce the trim function, then we'll select the test, then we'll simply hit OK. So as you can see, now the spacing has been what gotten rid of. Obviously, since it's a single data, you can always what do it manually, as I always say. But if it's a large data set, obviously doing it one by one is a whole lot of stress. So now let's reintroduce our Xlookup again and see what the results will be. So Xlookup. So let's quickly do that. Then this is our lookup value, right? Then it is found within this array. Then also, as you can see, as you select these tests, as you can see, the colors change. So this helps you differentiate the test you are selecting in Excel. So if not found, let's simply bring in OK, OK. So let's close parenthesis, hit OK. So as you can see, this actually works out 8, 50, 30. So always be sure to, or in the case that a function or formula is not working out for you, don't actually panic. Always go through it step by step to know where the problem is coming from. So we've learned about the VLOOKUP, the HLOOKUP, the SLOOKUP, and also the trim function over here also. And lastly, what we'll be talking about will be the index and the match function. So the index and the match function, it's as putting them together, it always what acts was just as a lookup function. So by using the index alone, so let's see what the index does. So we'll simply type it, and the index what it returns a value or reference of the cell at the intersection of what a particular row or column in a given range. So unlike the Xlookup, so let's simply use the index and let me show you something. So we'll simply select the insert. So sorry, we didn't actually make it clear. We want the index, so we simply type the index, hit the tab. Then now just let's bring in the insert function. Let's simply click on OK. Then now, as you can see over here, it doesn't ask you for what, it doesn't ask you for a value, a lookup value. It just simply asks you for what, an array. So let's simply select what this entire array over here, right? And it is asking us for what, the row number. So with the row number, select the row in array or reference from which to return. So what do we want to return after what in this array? So the row number is what, is 2. right? Sorry. So the row number is what? Is 1. So this is the first row. So the row number is 1 since that row is the first one. And then what? The column we want to return is obviously column what? 2. So simply, as you can see, the desired result has appeared over here. We will simply hit on OK. And as you can see, the very the very value for Dano has appeared over here. But as you can see, since we didn't really reference this, in the case that we are even to get rid of this, nothing changes over here. So there's one advantage of just using the index function. So now let's move on to the match function. So what the match function does is it looks for the location of the very value you are looking for. So let's use it. Let's go to the formula bar and bring in the match function equal to the match. So as you can see, it appears over here. Let's hit the tab key, then let's bring in the insert function. So it is over here, as you can see, it is clearly asking us for the lookup value. So simply select our lookup value. Then moving on, what is our lookup array? Obviously, we know what the lookup array is, where it is found. Then it is asking for the match type. We want an exact match, so we simply bring in the 0, obviously, and we'll hit there. Okay, so as you can see over here, it simply gives us the very location or the location number of our of our value. So in the case that this is to change to, let's say, Milo, so let's change it to Milo. It as you can see, it returns is very location. So this what the index does on its own, and this is what the match function also. But together, like Barry and Iris, they are unstoppable. So now let's use them together. So first we start with the index function. So we simply bring in the index function. And now with the index function, it is asking us for the array. So obviously, sorry, let's correct this. Let's correct this. Let's bring in what we want to look for. So over here, what we want will be the brown sugar, right? So let's simply reference it. Why do we always forget to bring it over here? So let's now use them together. Unstoppable duo, like Messi and Neymar, all right. So let's first start with the index. So we'll simply bring in the index function. Then it is asking us for the array. So we'll simply select the entire array, right? So this is the entire array we are talking about. Then over here, when you bring in the comma sign, it is asking us for the row number. So over here, instead of bringing the row number, we'll bring in the match function. So we'll bring in the match function, we'll select it, and it is asking us for the lookup value. So this is our lookup value, right? So we'll simply bring in a comma. And now it is asking us for the lookup array. So we'll simply select the entire lookup array. Then we'll close it. Then obviously we want an exact match. So we'll simply select this one, then close the parenthesis for the match function. Then now, if all these things are found, let's now bring in the column number. So the column number is column number 2. So 1, 2. So the column number 2 will simply bring it, close the parenthesis, and hit the enter key. And as you can see, it returns a value for us, just as the Vlookup and the Hlookup. So this is what the index and match function does on its own, does together. So in the case that this is to change to, let's say, ideal, so let's change it to ideal. As you can see, it affects the final. Well, do you feel like a pro now? That was the ultimate goal. See you in my next video.